Here you have some of the most vulnerable secrets in all of the State Department, all of the United States. People put their lives on the line for this country, and this data evidently is unencrypted without dual authentication, and it begs a lot of questions. Mr. Cooper, you told the FBI evidently that you helped to set up Hillary Clinton's, Secretary Clinton's New York and D.C. residences with an iMac, correct?
That is correct.
So did you set them up, or did you set them up with somebody else?
Those were out-of-the-box solutions that were set up prior to her.
Sorry, you got to move it a little closer. It's just we're having a hard
Those were out-of-the-box solutions that were set up prior to her becoming Secretary of State.
And where did you set them up?
They were set up in the offices that she used in each of her homes.
Did that include the SCIF?
At the time they were set up, those rooms were not used as SCIFs.
Did you ever have to service any of those computers or work on any of those computers?
Over periods of time, I did service and work on those computers.
You did or did not?
Did work on those computers.
Including the one in the SCIF?
I don't recall any specific time that I worked on it once they were in the SCIFs.
So, well, how many did you set up at her home?
There was a computer in her office in each of her homes. I've worked on their homes for a period of 15 years, and certainly when they were originally set up, they were set up primarily for the use of staff in her homes, and I would use those computers from time to time to print documents. Once they became SCIFs, I don't recall specifically using those computers.
Or servicing of those?
No.
Did you have a security clearance at that time?
No, I did not have a security clearance.
After you left the White House when did you leave the White House?
2001.
2001. Did you ever have a security clearance at any level after that?
No, I did not have a security clearance.
When you had full access to the whole server the entire time that you were working for the Clintons?
Yes, I had access to the server.
And you have no security clearance?
I have no security clearance.
You told the FBI that Uma Abedin recommended in the fall of 2008 that you contact Brian Pagliano to build the new server system. Is that correct?
I spoke with Mr. Pagliano at Ms. Abedin's request in fall 2008. We had an existing server system for President Clinton's staff located in the Clintons' residence. I spoke to Mr. Pagliano as that system had its limitations, and we were thinking about expanding it. He had some opportunities using surplus equipment from the Clinton campaign that we could use for President Clinton's office to set up.
Sorry, we got to still move that microphone. Just straighten it out and put it right up under there. You go. A little closer. What conversations did you have with with Uma Abedin about the setting up of the server?
I don't recall any specific conversations with her about the setting up of the server.
What about setting up emails?
At some point, I had a conversation with her about setting up an email for Secretary Clinton on the servers.
What about setting up an email for Uma Abedin on it, sir?
As well, I had a conversation about setting up an email address for Uma Abedin.
And did you set up an email for Uma Abedin?
Yes.
And did she use that email?
As far as I know, yes.
What other staff used the Clinton email?
The other staff were all staff members of President Clinton's office.
So,
not on the Clinton email domain. On the
ClintonEmail.com, to be specific.
There are no other staff that I recall using that.
So who had an email address at ClintonEmail.com?
The additional person that had an email address there was Chelsea Clinton.
So did you have one?
No.
So you, Uma Abedin, and Secretary Clinton had email addresses there?
I did not have an email address on Clinton.
Sorry. Okay. Sorry. Hillary Clinton, Uma Abedin, and Chelsea Clinton each had addresses at that address.
Correct.
What other computers did you set up in their residence? How many computers did you set up?
The only computers I set in the residence were the 2 iMacs, which you have previously mentioned, and the initial Apple server, which came in with support from Apple to set up that server in their household.
And did you set up anything in Washington DC at a residence there?
As mentioned, that one of the 2 iMacs, which you referred to, was in Washington, D.C.
So the other one was in Chappaqua, New York?
Correct.
Okay, so there's a total of 2 computers, one in Chappaqua. Why did you set up ClintonEmail.com?
Secretary Clinton was transitioning from presidential campaign and her Senate role and had been using primarily a BlackBerry for her email correspondence. There were limitations to her ability to use that BlackBerry, as well as a desire to change her email address because a number of people had received her email address over the course of those activities. So we created, with a discussion, I believe with Huma Abedin at the time, what domains might be of interest. We obtained a domain, and we added it to the original server used by President Clinton's office for her to use with her BlackBerry at the time. And we set that up in a way where the messages simply came into that server and bounced right to her BlackBerry and were not retained on that Apple server.
Who paid for these computers?
All of them were paid personally by the Clintons.
Personally?
Personally.
And who were you being compensated by?
I was being compensated by the Clintons.
Just personally, or the Clinton Executive Services, Clinton Foundation, what was?
At that time, I was employee of both the Clinton family personally and the Clinton Foundation.